Throughout history, humans have been told tales of creatures lurking in the shadows, but few have captured the imagination as much as the Dogman. So what is Dogman? Well, Dogman is a cryptid, derived from the Greek kryptos, meaning hidden. These creatures of lore have been sighted by many, but confirmed by few. From the depths of our oceans to the most secluded forests, cryptids have been whispered about around campfires and passed down through generations. The existence of cryptids can often be traced back to ancient civilizations. For instance, dragons, arguably the most recognized mythical creatures, find mention across various cultures, from the Chinese long to the European fire-breathing dragon. These creatures, despite no real proof that they exist, play vital roles in cultural narratives, often symbolizing power, fear, or reverence. Cryptids often serve dual purposes. They represent the unknown that humans inherently fear, and simultaneously they embody the spirit of discovery, the potential of what might be out there. Amidst this milieu of mythological beasts and elusive sea monsters, the Dogman, primarily a North American phenomenon, emerges as a relatively recent and unsettling entrant. Described as a bipedal creature with a human-like body but a canine head, the Dogman is said to inhabit the dense forests of the northern United States, especially Michigan.
Regarding Dogman, he's an interesting little set of tales. He's certainly not as popular as the Loch Ness Monster or Sasquatch, but he certainly is fairly well known by folks in the know. I've seen it reported that there's been more sightings of Dogman than there have been of Sasquatch.
The Dogman originates from ancient myths and legends from different cultures around the world. One of the most iconic deities of ancient Egypt, Anubis, has the body of a man and the head of a jackal. As the god of mummification and the afterlife, he played a crucial role in the burial process and in guiding souls to the afterlife.
He was a human for the most part, but had the head of a dog, or the head of a jackal more specifically. And that's one of the most well-known creatures.
Anubis, as a guardian of the dead, holds dominion over the realms that humans cannot fully understand. Similarly, the Dogman, emerging from forests and uncharted territories, represents the unknown or supernatural aspects of our world, reminding us of the mysteries that still exist. Common in European tales, werewolves are humans who transform into wolf-like creatures during a full moon. Such legends emphasize the duality of human nature, and they can be found from ancient Greece to medieval Europe. Werewolves and other shapeshifters emphasize the thin boundary between human and animal. The Dogman has a permanent blend of the two, can be seen as a representation of this duality, both the civilized and the wild residing in one being. Prevalent in indigenous tales, the coyote often appears as a trickster figure. While sometimes depicted in wholly animal form, many stories emphasize his anthropomorphic abilities and behaviors. Just as the coyote in indigenous cultures embodies unpredictability and mischief, the Dogman, by eluding definitive evidence of his existence, represents the unpredictable and unexplained aspects of the world around us. These human canines vary in nature, from benevolent guides to menacing figures, and they underline humanity's intrinsic fascination with blurring the lines between man and beast. Over time, as cultures intermingle, stories often mix elements from various myths. The Dogman might be a modern manifestation of our need to personify the unknown, drawing from a melting pot of ancient legends. In essence, while the Dogman legend is a product of modern folklore, its roots might very well be entrenched in these age-old tales. Such myths, having survived generations, serve as a testament to humanity's consistent yearning to understand, explain, and personify the enigmatic world around them. The Dogman, in this lineage of stories, continues this tradition, evoking fear, wonder, and curiosity in equal measure.
And that kind of goes throughout all history here into modern times, where now we have people today talking about seeing these upright walking dogs anywhere from within the woods to coming up to their homes to crossing the road to appearing in their homes. They tend to be very menacing, and that is something that seems to have been a very common storyline with these things throughout history.
The Dogman legend is especially associated with the Midwest region of the United States, particularly Michigan. It saw a remarkable surge in popularity during the 1980s. While stories and local folklore about creatures resembling the Dogman date back to indigenous tales and earlier settler accounts, it was really in the latter half of the 20th century that the Dogman legend gained widespread attention. One of the most pivotal moments for the popularization of the Dogman myth was when Steve Cook, a radio DJ at WTCM-FM in Traverse City, Michigan, produced and aired a song titled The Legend as an April Fool's Day prank. Intended merely as a fun local joke, the song unexpectedly resonated with a wide audience. The song narrated eerie encounters with a humanoid canine creature, which many listeners identified with. Following the broadcast of the legend, the radio station was inundated with calls from listeners who believed they had encountered a creature similar to the Dogman, or knew someone who had. These tales spanned decades, suggesting the creature's presence in local folklore well before the 1980s. The sudden interest in the Dogman phenomenon caught the attention of local and then national media. News outlets began covering the legend, leading to a broader awareness of the myth, amplifying its reach and adding a level of perceived legitimacy to the accounts. As the legend grew in popularity, more and more people began to share their experiences and encounters with the creature. Whether these accounts were genuinely paranormal experiences, cases of mistaken identity, or simply tales spun from the fabric of imagination, they undoubtedly added fuel to the Dogman fire. The 1980s was also a time when interest in the paranormal, UFOs, and cryptids like Bigfoot was high. The Dogman legend fit neatly into this cultural milieu, offering a new regional mystery for enthusiasts to latch onto. What began as an April Fool's Day song in 1987 unexpectedly tapped into a wellspring of local folklore, resonating with regional tales and personal experiences. The media's role in propagating the legend, combined with the cultural climate of the time, ensured that the Dogman myth would become an enduring part of American cryptid lore. In the realm of American cryptid folklore, few stories have managed to capture as much attention, skepticism, and genuine fear as the tale of the Beast of Bray Road. Nestled in the heart of Wisconsin's Walworth County, Bray Road might have remained just another nondescript rural route if not for the sightings of a mysterious and terrifying creature that catapulted it into the spotlight in the late 20th century. The first reported sightings of the Beast of Bray Road date back to the 1930s. However, it was the late 1980s and early 1990s when the volume of reported encounters surged, giving the legend its momentum. Descriptions varied slightly, but witnesses generally described a large hairy creature with a muscular build, standing between 5 and 7 feet tall. Its face bore resemblance to a wolf or a German shepherd, but it was its human-like hands and its propensity to stand on its hind legs that deeply unsettled those who claimed to have seen it. In the early 1990s, local newspaper reporter Linda Godfrey from the Walworth County Week decided to investigate the numerous reports about the mysterious creature. Initially skeptical, Godfrey's perspective shifted as she delved deeper. The sheer number of witnesses, coupled with the consistency in their accounts, began to paint a picture that was hard to dismiss outright. Godfrey's articles on the Beast of Bray Road became a sensation. What might have been brushed off as local gossip or tall tales suddenly began drawing regional and eventually national attention. TV crews, journalists, and cryptid enthusiasts started flocking to Bray Road in hopes of catching a glimpse of the creature, or at least documenting the experiences of those who had. The sudden surge in popularity of the Beast of Bray Road led to a plethora of theories trying to explain the phenomenon. Some believed it to be a previously undiscovered species, a relic from a bygone era. Others posited that it was a werewolf, drawing parallels with the European legends of men transforming under the full moon. The more skeptically inclined attributed the sightings to misidentified known animals like bears or even large dogs, arguing that the fear and power of suggestion could distort one's perception. Yet another theory that gained traction was the idea of a bearwolf, a hybrid creature born from the union of a wolf and a bear. This theory attempted to bridge the gap between the beast's canine features and its size and stature, which often resembled that of a bear. The Beast of Bray Road is not just a standalone legend. It is part of a larger tapestry of Dogman sightings across North America. Still, what makes the Beast of Bray Road story particularly compelling is its concentration in a specific geographic location and the sheer number of witnesses within a relatively short time frame. The legend has found its way into numerous books, documentaries, and even films. Linda Godfrey, who can arguably be credited with bringing the story to the masses, has written extensively on the subject, providing one of the most comprehensive chronicles of the Beast of Bray Road encounters. Even decades after the initial flurry of sightings in the 90s, reports of the encounters with the Beast of Bray Road continue to trickle in. While they might not garner the same media frenzy as before, these accounts serve as a testament to the legend's enduring grip on the local and broader cryptid enthusiast community. For locals, Bray Road has become more than just a stretch of pavement. It's a landmark, an identity, and for some, a place of genuine fear. While many go there out of curiosity, hoping to catch a glimpse of the beast, others avoid it altogether, especially after dark. The Beast of Bray Road, like all cryptid legends, straddles the line between reality and folklore. The truth of its existence may never be definitively proven or debunked. However, its impact on local culture, American cryptid lore, and the broader discourse on the unknown is undeniable. Whether a product of collective imagination, misidentification, or a genuinely undiscovered creature, the Beast of Bray Road serves as a potent reminder of humanity's timeless fascination with the mysteries that lurk just beyond the peripherals of our understanding. In the end, whether it's real or imagined, the beast has etched its place in the annals of American folklore, a testament to the power of stories and the human imagination.
In Dogman encounters, people who have experienced these things all across the United States, they get a feeling of immense dread, of immense evil. And you think about our relationship that human beings have with wolves. Wolves are always the bad guy, and their interpretations of the Bible of wolves, always beware of the wolves. And wolves in real life, if you meet them, they're very shy creatures and avoid humans, I mean, there are reports of them attacking people, but it's very, very rare. Not like bears, bears are much more aggressive towards people than wolves, but wolves don't go out at night, or the big bad wolf stalks this woods. You hear about the Native American encounters where they have nothing nice to say about a dogman, where I think it's interesting where a lot of Native American tribes, and even to this day, if you talk to them, where they say, oh, Bigfoot, we leave them alone. They leave us alone. Some of them have benign descriptions of Bigfoot. Some of them have aggressive depictions of Bigfoot. A lot of them do. Some of them have even a benevolent depiction of Bigfoot. Oh, they bring us food and fish when we're, starving or something like that. The Bigfoot are good here. They never have anything nice to say about Dogman. They say that they exist. Some of them, if you look into the skinwalker type stuff, especially in the Navajo tribe and some of the southern tribes of the United States.
There's people who talk about when they see a Dogman, not just fear, but the sense of evil comes over them. The only time that I've ever heard of something more in the positive sense is with children. I talked to a woman who had ongoing interactions with the creature, and it was not terrifying at all for her, but she was a child. Recently, I talked to a man that his friend told him as children that he wanted to take him to meet his friend out in the woods. So they went out in the woods. They came across an old shack like out there in the middle of nowhere. And his friend goes up on the porch, looks in the window, and he says, "Oh, good, he's home." And he said that there was a bunch of like chewed up like toys on the front porch. And he goes up and looks in the window, and he sees an upright standing walking dog inside this house. And it was like the dog's house. And he obviously freaks out, runs away and stuff. But the point is, that kid that took him there believed that that was his friend. And so there is this little bit of a pattern that I'm starting to see where people are having very positive interactions with these things, but it's always, in my case, and with what I'm seeing, it has always been with them as a child.
One of the earliest modern Dogman sightings took place in the Wisconsin city of Racine. Mark Shackleman, a diligent night watchman, had taken up the responsibility of guarding the sacred grounds of the St. Coletta Convent in 1936. As the cloak of night fell around him, a peculiar stench, reminiscent of rotting flesh, wrapped itself around the hallowed grounds. Deep in the patrol, Mark's flashlight beam caught a glimpse of a dark silhouette. An unearthly creature cloaked in inky black fur with long, ominous claws seemed to be defiling an indigenous people's burial mound. Before Mark could fully process what he was witnessing, the beast, sensing his presence, took off, vanishing into the night. The subsequent dawn revealed a chilling scene. Footprints interlaced with claw marks suggesting a creature of nightmares, yet two of its fingers appeared crippled or withered. A growing sense of dread crept into Mark's heart as night approached again. He knew he had to return. The next night was even more chilling. As the fog rolled in, Mark once again spotted the creature, now even more ferocious, raking its claws over the same mound. As Mark stepped closer, the creature did the unimaginable. It locked eyes with Mark. In the heavy silence, it uttered a chilling word, or perhaps a name, Gadara. Resisting the urge to flee, he slowly turned and walked away, feeling the weight of the creature's eyes boring into his back. The last thing Mark remembered before the fog enveloped everything was the Dogman's sneer and the relentless smell of death. Although Mark never encountered the creature again, the haunting memory and scent of decay would forever linger.
And the whole legend behind Dogman is very interesting. First of all, we see Sasquatch or Yeti or Bigfoot or Swamp Ape or whatever you want to call it showing up literally all over the world. But no one claims it. Dogman, for whatever reason, is regionalized. He's often referred to as Michigan's Dogman. Sometimes you hear about Ohio's Dogman or Minnesota's Dogman. You even have the Beast of Bray Road, which I think is in Wisconsin, which seems to be a Dogman entity. And so despite appearing in, I think it's 48 out of 50 states in the United States and on 6 of the 7 continents worldwide, Antarctica being the only exception, it's most commonly known as the Michigan Dogman. The first sighting was there back in 1887 by some lumberjacks who described this, large, 7-foot tall, muscular dog man type creature, literally a cross between a dog and a man that chased them out of the woods.
I think that kind of leads credence to some of the missing 411 cases out there missing people across the United States go missing under strange circumstances, and sometimes they find paw prints or something, a combination of teeth and paws, but also things that look like it has articulation in hands. Almost like if a bear or a mountain lion had human-like hands. That doesn't sound like a Bigfoot. I mean, they can be ferocious, but nothing like a bloodthirsty predator.
What we see with Bigfoot a lot of times is the only reported attacks are in an effort to get away from humans. It's usually, a male Bigfoot, or a female, if it's with young, will start throwing, large rocks or huge tree trunks at people and making these warning noises. And it's more of an effort of leave us alone, go away. Whereas with Dogman, it seems to actively pursue humans as prey, if you accept those stories. And some people have even claimed to have been assaulted by Dogman and gotten away. There's some missing persons or people that have been found dead that the cause of death is attacked by a pack of feral dogs in locations where you wouldn't expect to find feral dogs, like up in the Rocky Mountains. And so some people believe that's evidence of a Dogman sighting.
The legend of Dogman has been a subject of intrigue for many. Its elusive nature, combined with sporadic sightings and anecdotal evidence, divides the populace into believers and skeptics. Delving into why some people believe in the Dogman while others dismiss it reveals a complex interplay of psychological, sociological, and cultural factors. For many, belief in cryptids like the Dogman arises from a deep-seated psychological need to believe in the unknown and unexplained. The world is vast, and the idea that not everything has been discovered feeds the human spirit. Additionally, personal experiences and testimonies from trusted individuals can solidify these beliefs. For someone who believes they've seen or encountered the Dogman, no amount of skepticism can easily shake their conviction. Skepticism, on the other hand, often stems from a need for empirical evidence. The scientific method, which relies on reproducibility and tangible evidence, doesn't lend itself easily to cryptid claims, which are often based on singular, non-reproducible events. For skeptics, anecdotal evidence isn't sufficient enough to substantiate the existence of such creatures. Dogman tales and similar cryptids are often amplified by media. Movies, documentaries, TV shows, and books. These platforms, while entertaining, can blur the lines between fiction and reality for some viewers. In a world where sensational stories grab attention, accounts of Dogman encounters can become deeply ingrained in public consciousness. Conversely, the commercialization of cryptids can further entrench skepticism. Seeing the Dogman story told in various media forms, often with added dramatic flair, can make the entire concept seem fabricated for entertainment rather than based on genuine encounters. Communities, especially areas with frequent Dogman sightings or folklore, can foster collective belief systems. When multiple individuals share stories of encounters or pass down tales through generations, it lends credence to the idea. Being part of a group that believes in the Dogman can validate individual beliefs and create a sense of belonging. In contrast, communities rooted in scientific or academic settings tend to be skeptical of cryptid claims. Within these circles, empirical evidence is paramount, and without it, the Dogman remains a myth.
I'm not sure traditional science even wants to acknowledge the topic of Dogman. I think maybe traditional history could acknowledge the topic of Dogman, and you can look at the historical context of these creatures being in what you would call folklore, not real true stories. But as far as science goes, I don't think science wants to even touch it. I don't even think science wants to acknowledge the fact that Dogman is a possibility. I think Dogman is a far more extreme topic to consider for science than even Bigfoot is. And we know that Bigfoot is something that they don't want to touch. But there have been scientists that do go into the topic of Bigfoot. I don't know off the top of my head very many scientists that have dabbled seriously in the Dogman community looking at the facts of Dogman.
To many, the Dogman is a product of folklore, a legend without any real substance. But for the sake of exploration, let's consider the biological possibility of such a creature existing. All species on Earth, as we understand them, have evolved over millennia to adapt and survive in their respective environments. The concept of bipedalism, or the ability to walk on two legs, is not exclusive to humans. Birds, some dinosaurs, and even certain primates exhibit bipedal locomotion. If we consider the possibility of a canine species taking an evolutionary detour towards bipedalism, it would require a significant set of environmental pressures that would make walking on two legs more advantageous than on four. For a canine to evolve into a bipedal creature, profound skeletal changes would be necessary as well. The spine's curvature would need to alter to support an upright posture. The pelvis would require restructuring to attach to two powerful legs capable of supporting their entire body weight. Such a transition would likely take millions of years, assuming there was an evolutionary advantage to do so. Along with skeletal modifications, there would need to be substantial muscular and cardiovascular adaptations. Two legs would mean larger muscles in the legs for support and propulsion. The cardiovascular system would have to adjust to pump blood efficiently to a vertically oriented body, maintaining oxygen supply and removing waste products efficiently. Transitioning from a quadruped to a biped stance would not just be a matter of bones and muscle. It would affect the creature's entire perception of its environment. The eyes, which on a dog are situated on the sides of its head, might shift forward, similar to primates, to provide better depth perception. This change would be crucial for a predator that now has to navigate, hunt, and protect itself in an upright position. The brain would also need to adapt, both in terms of structure and capacity to process information differently. With a shift in body structure and hunting dynamics, dietary needs might also change. While a quadrupedal wolf or dog can rely on its speed and pack tactics, a bipedal dogman might need to develop different hunting strategies, possibly even tools. This could mean changes in its digestive system and its metabolic rate. The reproductive organs and processes might also need to adapt. How would a bipedal canine carry its young? Would it still bear litters? Or would there be a move towards single births like humans? Evolutionary theory suggests that creatures that invest more in individual offspring tend to have longer lifespans, so the dogman might have a different lifespan than its quadrupedal counterparts. The environment plays a crucial role in the evolutionary pathway for any species. For a canine to turn bipedal, its environment would need to present challenges that favor bipedalism. Perhaps a landscape where standing tall provides visibility advantages, or where two-legged mobility offers access to resources or shelter. For all these changes to happen, there would need to be genetic mutations that support each one. Evolution, as we understand it, relies on beneficial mutations being passed down and amplified over generations. The odds of all the necessary mutations occurring in sequence or simultaneously are astronomically low. Assuming the dogman did evolve, it would need to establish its place in the food chain. As a new species, it might face threats from other established predators. It would have to compete for food, territory, and mates, adding another layer of complexity to its survival.
There's also, the scientific community doesn't really discount the possibility of a creature like this existing, but they believe it would be more of a prehistoric type animal, somewhere between what we think of as a modern-day wolf and a dire wolf, maybe that's larger than normal. that people get confused by, but they don't speak to how it's, virtually every encounter, the Dogman's on his hind legs, walking as a human would. Scientific community doesn't offer an explanation for that.
While the idea of a flesh and blood dogman is captivating, from a biological standpoint, the odds seem heavily stacked against its existence. Now, all of that does not take into account that the dogman may not be a flesh and blood being, but in fact supernatural. In many cultures, there are myths and legends of beings that can transform between human and animal forms, such as the werewolf in European lore or the skinwalker in Native American tales. The dogman might be such a being, not bound by the limitations of the physical realm, but instead a supernatural shapeshifter. The Dogman can be seen as a modern iteration of age-old tales of beings that blur the lines between humans and animals. For some, these stories aren't just myths, but historical accounts providing a cultural basis for belief. The wide range of habitats and regions where Dogman has been reported is puzzling. A single undiscovered species being present in such diverse conditions without concrete evidence seems implausible. However, a supernatural entity wouldn't be bound by typical ecological or geographical limitations. The lack of concrete evidence combined with the eerie nature of encounters and the creature's place in cultural lore suggests that the Dogman may be more spirit than species.
Step aside from any kind of paranormal topic of conversation when it comes to Dogman, because as soon as you start talking about Dogman being a paranormal interdimensional type creature, really the idea of needing to survive off physical things kind of goes out the window in my mind. But I did interview a guy on my show. It was episode 335, Dog versus Dogman. I had Kyle on the show, and he told me a story from when he was 15 years old. He is from Kentucky, and him and his grandfather used to hunt the Daniel Boone National Forest for raccoons. And they went out, and his grandfather could not go out in the woods with him because he just physically couldn't do it anymore. So they would drive the truck into the woods. His grandfather would park the truck. They'd get on a two-way radio, and his grandfather would stay in the truck. So Kyle lets the dogs loose. They get on a scent, and they take off, and they wind up treeing a raccoon. Kyle, as he's trying to keep up with his dogs, now they're gone. Like, you're just listening to the barks and you're kind of following the barks to keep up with your dogs. He hears a pack of coyotes coming in as well when they tree this raccoon. And so his grandfather gets on the two-way radio and says, "Do you hear the coyotes? Get to the dogs before the coyotes do, because if you don't, there's going to be a fight." And so Kyle said, okay, and he's booking it through the woods. He's trying to get there in time. He doesn't get there in time, and a fight breaks out. Now, what you need to know about the dogs that Kyle had, he had two dogs. One, his name was Bo. The other name was Jake. Bo was the younger dog, learning how to hunt from Jake, the older dog. And I guess that's how they train their hunting dogs. Their hunting dogs are trained by the older dogs. Jake was a legendary dog in the area. Everybody knew Jake because Jake was known to be the best hunting dog. He was the biggest dog, the strongest dog, the best dog for hunting. He was the best. And so Jake's out there treeing the raccoon, kind of showing Bo how to do this as well. When these coyotes come in, Bo takes off, and Kyle heard Bo take off. He could tell Bo left Jake to fight the coyotes alone. But Kyle said that in this first round, the coyotes came in one by one, and Jake fought them off. Wasn't very hard. You could hear the coyotes go away, and then they came back in as a group. And when they came back in as a group, Kyle said that you could tell and hear that Jake was getting his butt handed to him. The fight turned, Jake was losing, and he's trying to get there as fast as he can. But then he hears another dog come in and join the fight, and all of a sudden, the coyotes are, running away, crying and screaming and stuff, and Jake goes back to treeing the raccoon, and Kyle arrives on the scene. He sees Jake treeing the raccoon. He comes over, pats him on the head, and he hears what he thought was his other dog, Bo, that came in for the fight on the other side of the tree, chomping down on a coyote. So he walks around this tree to see and greet his dog, and what he sees is not his dog, Bo, at all. What was there was a huge dog. He said this dog was so big that it was holding a coyote by the rib cage in its mouth. Like the whole rib cage was in the Dogman's mouth. He's terrified. And when he lays eyes on this thing locks eyes with him. And it stands up on hind legs and takes off after Kyle. Kyle runs, and as he's running, his dog Jake comes in after this Dogman, and this Dogman kind of just pushes it away, just pushes it off the side like it's nothing. And there's Kyle's still running, the Dogman's still coming. His dog Jake comes back in a second time, and the Dogman takes Jake and just throws him through the woods. And he said you could hear Jake crashing through the trees, and he believed Jake was probably dead at that moment. And so I think he said that he fell, and he winds up on his backside, and this Dogman is coming in on him, and it's right there on top of him. He said that it was so close to him that he could see down the back of its throat. He, in that moment, those split seconds, is thinking, I'm dead. This monster's going to kill me. It's over. And for the third time, his dog Jake comes running in, broadsides this Dogman, and they get in a fight. He gets up and starts running away, calling for his dog, but all he hears is this Dogman shredding his dog to pieces, like literally destroying his dog. And so he's filled with tears, crying, running for his life out of the woods. He's fired. I believe he fired off a round into the sky when he hit like an opening, calling for his dog Jake. Jake doesn't come, and he gets back in the truck, tells his grandfather to take off. And so they take off, and he tells his grandfather what happened. And his grandfather told him that if you're going to spend time in these woods, you need to understand there are things out here that you're not going to understand. His grandfather knew these creatures were out there. And the next day they come back looking for Jake. They can't find him, but his grandfather leaves a coat out there for the scent in case Jake survived or Bo comes back. They go back out that evening, and they see a dog alongside the road, and they get out thinking it was Bo, and it turns out it was Jake. Jake actually survived the attack. His ears were shredded like noodles, he said. I mean, his dog was in really bad shape, but his grandmother actually nursed the dog back to health, and Jake actually lived to be an old dog and went out hunting again. He said Jake was never the same hunting dog again, but he did go out hunting and doing what he loved to do. I say that story to kind of draw this picture of a very natural, real environment. And in that environment of hunting, where a dog is treeing a raccoon, wanting to kill the raccoon is food. Then there's coyotes coming in on the dog because the coyotes view the dog as food, and they think that they can all gang up on the dog and kill it. Why would they kill a dog? To eat it, right? But that doesn't happen because this Dogman came in during that fight and wound up going after the coyotes and killing one and eating it, right? There's something about the coyotes that brought in that Dogman. Maybe it was the howling. We're not sure. But one thing's for sure is it wasn't coming in to save Jake. It was coming in because it heard food. And so I think there's a very real natural survival tactic here where it's just hunt, eat, survive.
With the reported Dogman sightings, there have been tracks, photos, and even audio recordings offered as proof of its existence. However, analyzing these pieces of evidence critically and scientifically is essential to separating myth from reality. So let's delve into a review of the primary types of physical evidence related to Dogman claims. Typical Dogman tracks resemble oversized canine footprints, often larger than any known wild canine species. These prints may occasionally exhibit bipedal patterns, suggesting an upright walking creature. Track evidence is one of the most commonly presented proofs for many cryptids. While with the Dogman, a major challenge in validating tracks is differentiation. The tracks can often be confused with other known animals, such as bears, wolves, or large dogs. Environmental factors such as rain or snow can alter footprints, making them appear larger or different than they originally were. Another consideration is hoaxing, creating fake footprints as pranks or to generate interest in a location. Thus, tracks, while intriguing, are not conclusive evidence without associated genetic material or concurrent video evidence. Photos purported to be of the Dogman generally depict a large humanoid creature covered in fur. Some images suggest a creature with a dog-like head, muscular torso, and a bipedal stance. Photography in the digital age is both a boon and a bane for cryptid research. While capturing images has become easier and more ubiquitous, so too has the ability to alter and fabricate those images. Many alleged Dogman photos suffer from issues like low resolution. Many images are grainy, out of focus, or are taken from a distance, making detailed analysis challenging. Often, the creature could be another animal, a play of shadows, or manipulated imagery. Without a clear frame of reference, it's hard to determine the size, posture, or even the clear shape of the alleged creature. While photos can be compelling and often form the cornerstone of cryptid claims, they require thorough vetting, ideally with the original, unaltered digital file for analysis. Some enthusiasts have presented audio recordings of eerie howls and growls as evidence of the Dogman. These recordings are characterized by their unfamiliarity. They don't match typical wildlife sounds known to those areas. Audio evidence is among the most challenging to validate. Without visual confirmation, attributing a sound to a particular source is speculative at best. Natural environments are filled with a cacophony of sounds, many of which can be surprising to the untrained ear. Known animals can produce unfamiliar noises when distressed, in mating calls, or even casual communication. Technological manipulation also plays a role. With audio editing software, sounds can be altered in pitch, speed, and tone, making the origin harder to pinpoint. Without a clear chain of custody and context, audio recordings remain intriguing but inconclusive.
I do know that one of the most compelling pieces of evidence I've seen is known as the OnStar recording. It's where a man and woman are driving down a road at night and they use the OnStar service, which was one of those emergency in-car buttons that would dial authorities for you, and they reported that they drove off the road because a large something ran into the middle of the road, and the husband swerved to miss it and they ended up in a ditch. They weren't hurt, and they tried to describe to authorities what it was. Was it a deer? Was it a bear? And he said, well, honestly, it looked like a really, really big wolf walking on its hind legs. And in the course of reporting this and giving this description, you hear a very strange noise, the husband and wife scream, a giant crashing sound or smashing sound, and then nothing. It goes blank. From that point on, it's the OnStar representative basically saying, sir, are you there? So that one's very unusual, and it's hard to explain away.
One of the strongest arguments against the existence of Dogman is the lack of any physical specimens. With many sightings over the years across various regions, it's surprising that no bodies or remains have been found. In the age of DNA analysis, even hair or saliva samples linked conclusively to an unknown canine species would significantly bolster claims. While not physical evidence, eyewitness accounts form a significant portion of Dogman lore.
The best evidence for me to receive, like if I'm looking for reasons to believe in Dogman, for me on a personal level, I am looking for people who have seen it and are able to describe it to me. And so I like the idea of people coming forward and sharing their stories as to what they saw in detail, what they went through. I think those are probably the best evidences, in the sense that you get a sense of what that person went through at that moment. And whether you want to believe that they saw what they think they saw is irrelevant to the fact that you talk to some of these people and you're like, they definitely went through something. I may not believe what they think they saw is reality and real, but they definitely feel like they went through something.
These testimonies, often detailed and emotionally charged, can be compelling. However, human memory and perception are fallible. Without physical evidence to back up these claims, they remain anecdotal. The legend of Dogman, like many cryptids, is rich with tales, sightings, and purported evidence. While tracks, photos, and recordings provide tantalizing hints of the creature's existence, none have been rigorously validated by the wider scientific community. This lack of conclusive evidence doesn't necessarily disprove the Dogman's existence, but it does call for caution and a healthy dose of skepticism. In the pursuit of understanding our world's mysteries, it's essential to approach such phenomenon with both curiosity and critical thinking. The Dogman, whether real or folklore, serves as a reminder of the vast unknowns that still exist and the human drive to explore and understand them.
So there's definitely something here that stems back to a very long time ago. I think there's a lot of people out there throughout history who have had experiences with this creature, if you want to just call it a creature, but they have not talked about it. And I think as the century turned the last 20 years with the advancement of technology, I think humanity has gotten to a point where people are more open to discuss these kind of topics because they read other people's experiences on the internet far more than they could have before. And so the scope, the perspective has grown a lot because of the access to information, which has allowed people to feel more comfortable coming forward and talking about this stuff. And I think that's why we're having a lot more reports today than we would have maybe 20, 30 years ago.
The unknown has always fascinated humanity. From the depths of the oceans to the vastness of space, the unexplored beacons. For many, cryptids like the Dogman represent the terrestrial unknown, creatures that exist just beyond the fringes of our understanding, evoking wonder and curiosity. Skeptics might argue that the Dogman, like other cryptids, is a cultural evolution of ancient myths adapted for modern sensibilities. Instead of viewing these tales as historical truths, they see them as allegories or cautionary tales. A distrust in mainstream institutions can bolster belief in cryptids. If one believes that authorities are hiding or dismissing evidence of the Dogman, it reinforces the idea that there is a truth being suppressed. On the other hand, those with strong trust in scientific institutions are more likely to await peer-reviewed evidence before accepting the existence of entities like the Dogman. For them, if such a creature existed, it would have been documented or studied extensively by now. Belief in the Dogman or lack thereof isn't merely a matter of credibility or skepticism. It's a complex mosaic shaped by individual experiences, community narratives, cultural history, and personal psychology. While it's easy to dismiss believers as naive or skeptics as closed-minded, understanding the nuanced reasons behind those convictions fosters empathy and dialogue. Cryptids like the Dogman serve a broader purpose beyond their potential existence. They challenge our understanding of the world, push the boundaries of accepted knowledge, and most importantly, remind us of the ways humans perceive and interpret their surroundings. Whether or not the Dogman roams the woods or is merely a product of our collective imagination, its legend encourages introspection, curiosity, and respect for the diverse tapestry of human belief. It's clear that this creature, whether real or born of folklore, holds a captivating grip on our collective imagination. From eyewitness accounts to cultural narratives, the Dogman's presence in our stories speaks volumes about our innate human fascination with the unknown. The realm of cryptids has always danced along the fine line between skepticism and belief, and the Dogman is no exception. While concrete evidence of this bipedal canine's existence remains elusive, the multitude of testimonies and tales ensures that it won't fade into obscurity anytime soon. It's essential to approach the topic with both curiosity and critical thinking. Every story, photograph, or piece of alleged evidence should be analyzed with an open mind, but also with a discerning eye. The legends of cryptids, including the Dogman, are as much about the creatures themselves as they are about us, our perceptions, and our relationships with the mysteries of the natural world. Whether you leave this documentary a skeptic, a believer, or somewhere in between, one thing is certain. The legend of the Dogman, like all enduring myths, serves as a reflection of our deep-seated need to explore, to question, and to marvel at the vast unknowns of our world. Until the next mystery unfolds, keep your eyes open, your cameras ready, and your senses of wonder alive.